Hello there, and welcome to the Sleepy Deep Sea channel. Tonight, we're descending into the darkest corners of the ocean, where one of Earth's most intelligent creatures becomes something far more unsettling. The octopus, a shapeshifter, a master of disguise, a creature with blue blood and 3 hearts. And the deeper you go, the stranger and creepier it becomes. The octopus is not like other animals. While most creatures follow predictable patterns, the octopus rewrites the rules entirely. It has no bones, no shell, no rigid structure to hold it together. Just soft, pulsing flesh that can squeeze through spaces smaller than its own eye. And yet, it is brilliant. Scientists have called the octopus the closest thing we have to an alien on Earth. Its nervous system is unlike ours. 2/3 of its neurons are not in its brain. They are in its arms. Each arm can think independently. Each arm can taste what it touches. Imagine if your hands could taste the world around you without ever needing your brain's permission. The octopus sees with its skin. It changes color in milliseconds, not just for camouflage, but for communication, for emotion, for reasons we still don't fully understand. It can mimic rocks, coral, even other animals. One moment it is invisible. The next it is a lionfish, spines flared in warning. But this is just the surface, because in the shallow waters, the octopus is curious, playful even. It solves puzzles. It recognizes human faces. It escapes from aquarium tanks like a prisoner plotting freedom. But go deeper, and something changes. The octopus you meet at 200 feet is not the same as the one you meet at 2,000, or 6,000, or deeper still, the more alien they become. And tonight, we will follow them down into the void. This is one of the ocean's darkest secrets. If these strange descents into the deep call to you, I invite you to like, subscribe, or share your thoughts below. It helps others find their way down here, one curious soul at a time. For now, just breathe, and let's begin. An octopus has more neurons than a dog, but most of them are not in its brain. Let's pause for a moment and consider what intelligence really means. When we decades, we think of primates, chimpanzees using tools, gorillas learning sign language, bonobos solving puzzles. All of these are young. They live in groups. They are, in many ways, like us. The octopus is nothing like us, and yet the octopus didn't evolve intelligence the way we did. It arrived at intelligence through a completely different evolutionary path, and that makes its intelligence unsettling. An octopus has around 500 million neurons, roughly the same as a dog. But while a dog's neurons are almost entirely in its brain, only about 200 million of the octopus's neurons are centralized. The remaining 300 million are distributed across its 8 arms. This means each arm is not just a limb. It is a thinking limb. Each arm has a cluster of nerve cells, a ganglion, that allows it to sense, process, and respond to stimuli independently. When an octopus reaches into a crevice to search for food, the arm doesn't wait for the brain to tell it what to do. The arm explores on its own. It tastes the water with chemoreceptors in its suckers. It feels the texture of rocks, sand, shells. It identifies prey, a crab perhaps, or a clam, and grips it, all without consulting the central brain. The brain only gets involved when the arm needs to pass the food toward the mouth, or when the octopus needs to coordinate all 8 arms for a complex task. Think about that. Your hand cannot decide on its own to grab a sandwich. It waits for your brain to send a signal. But an octopus's arm, it can hunt, taste, and capture prey autonomously. And here's where it gets even stranger. Scientists have tested what happens when an octopus arm is severed from the body. The arm continues to function. It responds to touch. It recoils from unpleasant stimuli. It even tries to bring food toward where the mouth should be, as if the arm retains some memory of its role, some fragment of purpose. This is not a reflex. Reflexes are automatic, mindless. This is something closer to distributed consciousness, as if the octopus is not one mind, but 9. A central intelligence coordinating a network of semi-independent processors. It's a form of intelligence we have no reference for, no comparison. It's as if the octopus exists in a state of controlled multiplicity, a being that is simultaneously singular and plural, and it uses this intelligence in ways that are both fascinating and deeply unnerving. Let's talk about the mimic octopus, because if one species embodies the unsettling genius of the octopus, it is this one. The mimic octopus, Octopus mimicus, was only discovered in 1998 off the coast of Indonesia. And from the moment scientists observed it, they realized they were watching something extraordinary. It can impersonate over 15 different species, not just change color, not just blend into the background. It becomes other animals. It changes its shape, its movement, its behavior, its entire appearance, all in less than a second. If a predator approaches, the mimic octopus assesses the threat and chooses the best disguise. If it's a fish hunting from above, the mimic flattens its body, tucks its arms, and glides across the sea floor like a flounder. It even mimics the undulating movement of the flatfish, rippling its arms in a wave-like motion. If the threat is a bottom-dwelling predator, like a moray eel, the mimic raises 2 arms, bands them with black and white stripes, and moves them in a serpentine motion, imitating a banded sea snake, one of the most venomous creatures in the ocean. Predators that would normally attack an octopus flee from the snake. If the threat is less immediate, the mimic can impersonate a lionfish, spreading its arms wide and pulsing them rhythmically, creating the illusion of venomous spines. Lionfish are avoided by most predators, and the mimic knows this. It weaponizes the fear other creatures have of the lionfish, and if it needs to move undetected across open sand, the mimic tucks 6 of its arms behind its body and walks on the remaining 2, propelling itself forward in jerky, uneven movements. It looks, for all the world, like a coconut or a piece of driftwood tumbling along the sea floor. Clumsy, inanimate, harmless. This is not pre-programmed behavior. This is strategic thinking. The mimic octopus evaluates the situation, the type of predator, the terrain, the available options, and chooses the best disguise in real time. It is acting, performing, and it is doing so with a level of sophistication that seems impossible for a creature with no bones, no rigid structure, no centralized control system, and yet it does it effortlessly. But mimicry is only one form of intelligence. The octopus is also a master of problem solving. In laboratories and aquariums around the world, they have demonstrated an almost eerie ability to manipulate their environment. They solve puzzles, they open containers, they escape enclosures that were supposedly octopus-proof. One of the most famous cases is that of an octopus in a German aquarium that repeatedly dismantled the tank's water filter system. Every morning, the staff would arrive to find water overflowing onto the floor. They couldn't figure out what was happening. They checked the equipment. They tested the seals. Everything seemed fine. Finally, they set up a camera. The footage showed the octopus waiting until the lights went out. Then, slowly, it climbed to the top of the tank, reached over to the filter, and took it apart, piece by piece. The octopus didn't like the current the filter created, so it removed the problem. deliberately, methodically, with intent. Another octopus, in a New Zealand aquarium, became infamous for escaping his tank every night, crawling across the floor, squeezing through a drain pipe, and making his way back to the ocean. His name was Inky, and his escape only came to light when the staff arrived one morning to find his tank empty and a trail of wet sucker marks leading to the drain. Inky had been planning this, watching, waiting for the right moment, and when the opportunity came, he took it. Then there's Otto, an octopus in a German aquarium who became notorious for short-circuiting the building's lights. Staff kept finding the aquarium plunged into darkness. Electricians were called. The wiring was checked. Everything was fine until they realized Otto was climbing to the surface of his tank and squirting water at the overhead spotlight, causing it to short out. Why? No one knows. Maybe he didn't like the brightness. Maybe he was bored. Maybe he just enjoyed watching the humans scramble around in confusion. The octopus doesn't just react to its environment. It manipulates it. It experiments with it. And it does so with a level of curiosity and intent that borders on mischievous. But problem solving is only part of the picture. The octopus also has an exceptional memory. In laboratory studies, octopus have been trained to complete tasks, navigating mazes, opening jars, distinguishing between different shapes and colors. Even though they're colorblind, they can still perceive contrast and brightness. And they remember these tasks. Days later, weeks later, they can repeat them. But it's not just rote memorization. The octopus can generalize. If it learns that a red ball contains food, it will investigate other red objects, expecting food. It applies what it learns to new situations. Even more unsettling, the octopus can recognize individual humans. Researchers have found that octopus in labs respond differently to different people. If one researcher is gentle and offers food, the octopus will approach that person eagerly. If another researcher is clumsy or has caused the octopus discomfort in the past, the octopus will avoid them, or worse, attack them. One famous study involved an octopus who consistently sprayed water at a specific staff member. Only that person, every time. The staff member hadn't done anything overtly harmful, but something about their interaction had annoyed the octopus. And the octopus remembered. It held a grudge. Think about that. An invertebrate, a creature with a completely different brain structure, can recognize your face, remember your actions, and judge you based on past interactions. The octopus watches you, it learns from you, and it remembers . That is not instinct, that is awareness. Now let's return to the octopus's most iconic ability, camouflage. We've already discussed chromatophores, the pigment-filled cells that allow the octopus to change color instantly. But color is only one layer. Beneath the chromatophores are iridophores, which reflect light and create shimmering blues, greens, and silvers. And beneath those are leucophores, which scatter light to produce whites and pale tones. Together, these layers allow the octopus to match almost any environment. Rocky reef, sandy bottom, coral outcrop, kelp forest. The octopus can become invisible in seconds. But here's where it gets truly disturbing. The octopus can also change the texture of its skin. Beneath the color-changing cells are structures called papillae, muscular sacs that can be inflated or deflated almost instantly. When inflated, they create bumps, spikes, ridges, and horns on the octopus's skin. When deflated, the skin becomes smooth again. This allows the octopus to mimic not just the color of its surroundings, but the shape and texture. A smooth-skinned octopus can transform into a spiky rock. A soft-bodied octopus can become a rough, barnacle-covered surface. A flat octopus can grow ridges that mimic the ripples of dunes. And it does this in less than a second. Scientists have filmed an octopus moving across different substrates, sand, rock, coral, and watching the skin change in real time is genuinely eerie. The transformation is seamless, perfect, as if the octopus is not just hiding, but becoming the environment itself. One researcher described it as disturbingly precise. But here's the part that has baffled scientists for years. Most octopus species are colorblind. They have only one type of photoreceptor in their eyes, one type of cone cell. This means they see the world in shades of light and dark, like an old black and white photograph. They cannot perceive color the way we do. And yet, they match the colors around them flawlessly. How? For years, this was a mystery. Then, in 2015, researchers discovered something astonishing. The octopus's skin can detect light. The same light-sensitive proteins that exist in the octopus's eyes, called opsins, are also present in the skin. This means the skin itself can sense the wavelength of light in its environment and adjust the chromatophores accordingly. The octopus doesn't need to look at its surroundings to camouflage itself. Its skin sees for it. Think about that. The octopus has a second visual system distributed across its entire body. Every inch of skin is, in a sense, an eye. This is not biology as we understand it. This is something else, something that feels almost like science fiction. The octopus's skin sees, the skin decides, the skin transforms, and it does all of this without involving the brain. But camouflage and mimicry are just the beginning. The octopus has an entire arsenal of tricks it uses to survive, confuse, and deceive. Let's start with ink. When threatened, the octopus can release a cloud of dark ink from a gland near its anus. The ink is made of melanin, the same pigment that gives human skin its color. But this isn't just a smokescreen. The ink contains compounds that dull a predator's sense of smell and taste, making it harder for them to track the octopus after it escapes. But some octopus take it further. They don't just release a shapeless cloud of ink. They shape it. They sculpt it into a form roughly the size and shape of their own body, a pseudomorph. The predator attacks the ink cloud, thinking it's the octopus, while the real octopus jets away in the opposite direction. It's a decoy, a body double made of ink. Then there's arm autonomy. If a predator grabs one of the octopus's arms, the octopus can sever that arm, leaving it behind while the rest of the body escapes. The severed arm continues to wriggle and writhe, distracting the predator. Meanwhile, the octopus regenerates the lost arm over the following weeks. This is not a last-ditch panic response. This is a calculated sacrifice. The octopus weighs the cost of losing an arm against the benefit of surviving, and it makes the trade cold, efficient, ruthless. Some octopus species take deception even further. The blanket octopus, for example, is immune to the venom of the Portuguese man-o'-war, a jellyfish-like creature with stinging tentacles. The blanket octopus tears off the man-of-war's tentacles and wields them as weapons, holding them in its arms like whips. Any predator that gets too close is stung. The octopus doesn't just use tools. It weaponizes other creatures. And then there's the most disturbing trick of all: playing dead. Some octopus, when threatened, will go completely limp. They stop moving, stop breathing. They let their arms dangle. They sink to the seafloor. They look, for all the world, dead. Predators lose interest. Scavengers approach cautiously. And then, when the threat has passed, the octopus comes back to life. It inflates its body, changes color, and jets away. It was never dead. It was performing. But perhaps the most unsettling aspect of the octopus's intelligence is its personality. Yes, personality. Researchers who work with octopus in labs and aquariums consistently report that individual octopus behave differently. Some are bold and curious, approaching new objects eagerly. Others are shy and cautious, hiding in corners. Some are aggressive, lunging at anything that enters their tank. Others are gentle, even playful. One octopus might enjoy being touched, reaching out to explore a diver's hand. Another might hate it, recoiling or squirting water in protest. This is not random. This is consistent individual behavior. This is personality. And the octopus doesn't just have personality. It seems to have preferences. Octopuses in captivity have been observed choosing favorite toys, favorite hiding spots, and even favorite foods. They show boredom when given repetitive tasks. They show excitement when presented with something new. And they show spite. Researchers have documented that an octopus deliberately makes messes, knocking over objects or squirting water at people they don't like. Not because they're threatened, not because they're hungry, but because they're annoyed, frustrated, maybe even entertained by the chaos they cause. This is not the behavior of a simple, instinct-driven animal. This is the behavior of a creature with intent, with agency, with something that feels disturbingly close to will. The octopus is not just intelligent. It is aware, and it knows you're watching. In shallow waters, the octopus is a trickster, but the deeper you descend, the tricks become something darker, something ancient, because in the shallows, the octopus uses its intelligence to play, to explore, to solve puzzles, and to escape enclosures. It is curious. It is clever. It is, in its own alien way, relatable. But go deeper, and the playfulness fades. The tricks become survival. The intelligence becomes colder, sharper, more efficient. The octopus of the deep does not play. It does not explore for the sake of curiosity. It hunts, it hides, it endures, and the tools it uses, the camouflage, the mimicry, the shape-shifting, they don't just help it survive. They make it invisible, not just to predators, to us. Because the deeper you go, the harder it is to see the octopus. Not because the water is dark, but because the octopus has perfected the art of not being seen. It is there, watching, waiting, thinking. But you will never know, until it's too late. So let's descend. Let's leave the sunlight behind. Let's follow the octopus into the twilight, where the water grows cold and the light fades to blue, where the trickster becomes a phantom, where intelligence becomes something stranger, something creepier, something other. At 600 feet below the surface, the light begins to fade, and the octopus starts to change. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine you are sinking, slowly, gently, down through the water. At first, everything is familiar. The sun is warm on your back. Light dances through the waves in shimmering curtains. You can see fish darting in schools, their silver scales flashing. You can see kelp swaying like an underwater forest. You can see the sandy bottom, pale and welcoming. But you keep sinking. And as you do, something begins to shift. The warmth fades, the light dims, the colors begin to bleed away. Red is the first to go. At around 15 feet, red light can no longer penetrate the water. A red fish looks grey. A red coral looks brown. The vibrant crimson of blood becomes dull and lifeless. Then the orange disappears, then yellow. By the time you reach 100 feet, the world is blue and green. By 200 feet, it's only blue, a cold, alien blue, like the glow of a distant star, and you keep sinking. At 600 feet, you cross a threshold. Scientists call it the twilight zone, the mesopelagic layer of the ocean. Here, the light is faint, fading. The sun is still visible above you, but only as a dim glow, like a memory of daylight. You are no longer in the world of the surface. You are entering something else, something older, something darker, and the creatures here, they are different. This is where the octopus begins to change. The twilight zone stretches from roughly 600 feet to 3,000 feet below the surface. It is a transition layer, a boundary between the bright, familiar shallows and the absolute darkness of the deep. In the shallows, life is abundant. Sunlight fuels photosynthesis. Algae and phytoplankton bloom. Fish feed on plankton. Larger fish feed on smaller fish. The food chain is rich and interconnected. There is energy, movement, life. But in the twilight zone, the rules change. Sunlight is scarce, too dim for photosynthesis, too faint for most colors to be visible. The water is colder here, dropping from the warmth of the surface to a steady chill. Food is harder to find. Predators are more patient, more efficient. Survival in the twilight zone requires adaptation. And the octopus, already one of the most adaptable creatures on Earth, begins to transform. In the shallows, the octopus relies on speed and camouflage. It darts between rocks. It hides in crevices. It changes color to blend into coral reefs and kelp forests. It is active, energetic, always moving. But in the twilight zone, energy is a resource that must be conserved. There is less food, less oxygen, less light. The octopus cannot afford to waste movement. It cannot afford to be seen, so it becomes larger. The giant Pacific octopus, one of the largest species in the world, can have an arm span of over 16 feet and weigh more than 100 pounds. It lives in the colder waters of the North Pacific, often descending into the upper edges of the twilight zone. Why so large? Because in the cold, dark water, a larger body retains heat more efficiently. A larger body can store more energy. A larger body has more strength to hunt, to defend, to survive. But size comes with trade-offs. A larger octopus is slower. It cannot dart and weave like its smaller, shallow water cousins. It must rely more on stealth and speed, on patience rather than agility. And so, the octopus of the twilight zone becomes a lurker, a watcher. It settles into crevices, its arms draped over rocks like roots. It waits for hours, for days, until prey comes within reach. Then, in a sudden burst of motion, it strikes. Arms shoot out, suckers latch on. The prey is pulled into the octopus's beak, where it is crushed and consumed. And then, stillness. The octopus returns to waiting. This is not the playful, curious octopus of the shallows. This is something colder, more calculating, more alien. But size is not the only adaptation. The octopus's eyes begin to change too. In the shallows, the octopus has large, expressive eyes. They are sophisticated, among the most advanced eyes in the animal kingdom. They can focus, track movement, and perceive depth. They are almost eerily human-like, which is part of what makes the octopus so captivating to watch. But in the twilight zone, where light is scarce, the eyes must work harder. Deep-water octopus species develop larger eyes, much larger. The deeper you go, the more important every photon of light becomes. A larger eye can capture more light. A larger pupil can let in more photons. A larger retina can process dimmer signals. Some species develop eyes that are disproportionately huge compared to their body size. The octopus begins to look different. Its eyes dominate its face, bulging outward, giving it an unsettling, almost extraterrestrial appearance. And these eyes are not just larger, they are more sensitive. The octopus's retina is packed with photoreceptor cells. In the twilight zone, these cells are tuned to detect the faintest flickers of bioluminescence, the glowing light produced by other deep-sea creatures. A jellyfish pulsing with soft blue light, a fish with a luminescent lure dangling in front of its mouth. A shrimp releases a cloud of glowing mucus to confuse predators. The octopus watches, it waits, it tracks the light, and when the moment is right, it attacks. But here's the disturbing part. As the octopus descends deeper, its eyes begin to lose color perception entirely. Not that most octopus could see color to begin with, but in the twilight zone, even the distinction between different wavelengths becomes meaningless. There is only one color left in the deep: blue. Everything is blue. The faint light filtering down from the surface is blue. The bioluminescence is blue. The water itself is blue. And so, the octopus's vision becomes monochromatic: black, white, and shades of blue. The world is reduced to light and shadow, brightness and darkness. It is a world stripped of vibrancy, a world of ghosts and silhouettes. And the octopus, with its enormous, unblinking eyes, stares into that world without emotion, without expression, just watching. But the changes don't stop at size and vision. The octopus's body itself begins to transform. In the shallows, the octopus is firm, muscular. It has strength. It can grip rocks with powerful suckers. It can jet through the water at surprising speed. It has substance, but in the twilight zone, and especially deeper down, the octopus becomes softer. The muscles grow less dense. The skin becomes more gelatinous. The body takes on a loose, almost flabby appearance, like a balloon that's lost some of its air. Why? Because muscle is heavy, and in the deep ocean, where food is scarce and every movement costs energy, carrying heavy muscle is a burden. The octopus sheds unnecessary weight. It becomes lighter, more buoyant, more efficient. But this softness gives the deep-sea octopus an eerie, unsettling quality. It doesn't look solid. It looks fragile, delicate, like it might fall apart if you touched it. Some species develop webbing between their arms, thin, translucent sheets of skin that connect the arms like the fabric of an umbrella. These species are called tiriti octopuses, or more commonly, Dumbo octopuses, named after the ear-like fins that protrude from the sides of their heads. The Dumbo octopus doesn't swim like a typical octopus. It doesn't jet through the water. Instead, it drifts. It pulses its fins slowly, gracefully, like a jellyfish. It moves through the twilight zone like a ghost, its arms trailing behind it, its body undulating in slow, hypnotic waves. It is beautiful and deeply, deeply unsettling, because there is something wrong about the way it moves, something too smooth, too slow, too deliberate. It doesn't look like a living creature. It looks like something pretending to be alive. And maybe, in a way, it is. Because the Dumbo octopus, like many deep-sea creatures, exists in a state of near stasis. Its metabolism is slow. Its movements are slow. Its life unfolds in slow motion, stretched across years in the cold, dark water. It is alive, yes, but barely. Just enough to survive, just enough to hunt, just enough to reproduce. And then it fades back into the darkness, silent and still. Here's something you might not expect. Many deep-sea octopus species lose their ink sacs entirely. In the shallows, ink is a crucial defense mechanism. When threatened, the octopus releases a cloud of dark ink, obscuring the predator's vision and dulling its senses. The octopus uses the confusion to escape. But in the twilight zone, and especially deeper, ink becomes useless. Why? Because there is no light to obscure. In total darkness, a cloud of ink is invisible. It doesn't create a smokescreen because there's nothing to block. The predator is hunting by feel, by smell, by electrical signals, not by sight. So the octopus adapts. It abandons the ink sac. It reallocates that biological energy elsewhere, to larger eyes, for more sensitive skin, to a more efficient metabolism. But losing the ink sac means the octopus loses one of its most iconic defenses. It becomes more vulnerable, more exposed, and so it compensates in other ways. Some deep-sea octopus develop bioluminescence, the ability to produce their own light, but not for vision, for confusion. When threatened, these octopus release clouds of glowing mucus instead of ink. The mucus sparkles and shimmers in the water, pulsing with blue-green light. Predators are mesmerized, distracted, confused by the sudden burst of light in the darkness. And the octopus vanishes. It is a different kind of deception, not hiding in darkness, but hiding in light, using brightness as a smokescreen in a world where brightness is rare. It's clever, efficient, and deeply strange, because the octopus is not just adapting to the environment. It is inverting the rules, using the very thing that should make it visible, light, to become invisible. Let's talk about pressure. At the surface, the atmospheric pressure is 14.7 pounds per square inch. That's what your body is used to. That's what feels normal. But for every 33 feet you descend in the ocean, the pressure increases by 1 atmosphere. At 33 feet, the pressure is 29.4 psi, double the surface pressure. At 66 feet, it's triple. At 100 feet, it's quadruple. By the time you reach 600 feet, the beginning of the twilight zone, the pressure is roughly 19 atmospheres. That's 280 pounds per square inch, enough to crush a styrofoam cup down to the size of a thimble. And the octopus, it doesn't even notice. Why? Because the octopus has no air-filled cavities, no lungs, no swim bladder, no hollow bones. Its body is mostly water and soft tissue, and water does not compress under pressure. The octopus is pressure neutral. It belongs to the deep in a way we never could. But pressure still has effects, not crushing effects, but shaping effects. Under extreme pressure, proteins fold differently. Cell membranes behave differently. Enzymes work differently. The octopus's biology must be calibrated for the pressure it lives in, and this calibration comes at a cost. Deep-sea octopus cannot survive in shallow water. If you bring a deep-water octopus to the surface, the sudden drop in pressure causes its cells to malfunction. Its enzymes stop working. Its metabolism collapses. It dies. Not from decompression sickness. It has no air bubbles to expand, but from biological incompatibility. Its body is tuned to the deep, and the surface is as alien to it as the deep is to us. This means the octopus of the twilight zone is trapped there. It cannot ascend. It cannot retreat to the safety of the shallows. It is committed to the dark, and the deeper it goes, the more committed it becomes. In the shallows, food is everywhere. Algae, plankton, small fish, crabs, clams. The octopus can hunt daily, sometimes multiple times a day. But in the twilight zone, food is scarce. The deeper you go, the less sunlight penetrates. And without sunlight, photosynthesis stops. The foundation of the food chain, algae and phytoplankton, cannot survive. So where does the food come from? It falls from above. Scientists call it marine snow, a constant, slow rain of organic matter drifting down from the surface. Dead plankton, fecal pellets, fragments of dead fish, molted shells, decomposing jellyfish. It all sinks slowly through the water column, feeding the creatures below. But marine snow is not abundant. It is sparse, scattered, unpredictable. The octopus cannot rely on it, so it must hunt. But hunting in the twilight zone is different. Prey is rare, slow, often just as patient as the octopus itself. So the octopus waits. It settles into a crevice, its arms spread wide, its body still. It waits for days, sometimes weeks, until something drifts within reach. A fish, weak and slow, is looking for a place to rest. A crustacean, scavenging the seafloor. A squid, disoriented by the darkness. The octopus strikes, fast, efficient, no wasted movement, and then it feeds, slowly, methodically, breaking down the prey with its beak, using its radula, a tongue covered in tiny, file-like teeth, to rasp the flesh into digestible pieces. A single meal might sustain the octopus for weeks. Its metabolism is slow. Its energy expenditure is minimal. It exists in a state of near hibernation, rousing only to hunt, to mate, or to escape danger. This is not the active, curious octopus of the shallows. This is a creature of stillness, of patience, of endurance. It is alive, but only just. A flicker of life in the vast, cold darkness. And let's not forget, it is cold down here. The surface ocean is warm, especially in tropical and temperate regions. Water temperatures can reach 80 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. But in the twilight zone, the temperature drops to a steady 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to numb human skin in minutes, cold enough to slow biological processes, cold enough to make survival a constant challenge. The octopus's body adapts. Its blood, already blue from copper-based hemocyanin, becomes more efficient at carrying oxygen in cold water. Its metabolism slows, reducing the energy needed to survive. But the cold also makes the octopus lethargic, slower, less reactive. Its movements are deliberate, almost sluggish. It cannot afford sudden bursts of speed. It must conserve every ounce of energy. And so, the octopus becomes a creature of economy. Every movement is calculated. Every decision is weighed. There is no room for playfulness, for curiosity, for exploration. There is only survival. And the deeper you go, the colder it gets, the darker it gets, the stranger it gets. But perhaps the most unsettling change is not physical, it's behavioral. In the shallows, the octopus is curious. It investigates objects. It interacts with divers. It plays. But in the twilight zone, that curiosity fades. The octopus becomes wary, cautious. It does not approach. It does not explore. It watches from a distance, its large eyes unblinking, its body tense. And if you get too close, it vanishes. Not in a burst of speed, but in a slow, deliberate retreat. It pulls its arms in. It changes color, fading to match the rocks, the sand, the darkness. It becomes invisible, and you are left staring at empty water, wondering if it was ever there at all. This is not the octopus you can interact with. This is not the octopus that will reach out to touch your hand, that will solve puzzles for treats, that will escape its tank for adventure. This is the octopus that has learned to distrust the world. Because in the twilight zone, curiosity is dangerous. Exploration is costly. Every encounter could be a predator. Every movement could be your last. So the octopus withdraws. It becomes a shadow, a ghost, a presence felt but not seen. And the deeper you go, the more it withdraws, until, eventually, it disappears entirely into the darkness. At 600 feet, the octopus is still recognizable, still, in some ways, familiar. But it is changing, growing larger, growing quieter, growing colder. And this is only the beginning, because the twilight zone is just the threshold, the doorway. Beyond it lies the midnight zone, where no sunlight reaches at all, where the pressure is crushing, where the cold is absolute, where the darkness is so complete that light itself becomes a weapon, a lure, a trap. And in that darkness, the octopus becomes something else entirely. It sheds the last vestige of the surface world. It abandons color, it abandons warmth, it abandons curiosity. It becomes a creature of the abyss, silent, patient, alien. So let's keep descending. Let's leave the last traces of sunlight behind. Let's follow the octopus down into the midnight zone, where the rules of biology bend, where survival is measured in stillness, where the octopus becomes creepier, because we are not at the bottom yet, not even close. And the deeper we go, the stranger it gets. At 13,000 feet, the pressure is so intense, it would crush a submarine. But the octopus thrives here. We are now beyond the reach of sunlight. Completely, utterly, absolutely. You are floating or sinking, depending on how you look at it. At 3,000 feet below the surface, the last faint glimmer of blue light from above has vanished. You have crossed into the midnight zone, the bathypelagic layer of the ocean. Here there is no day, no night, no seasons, just endless, unbroken darkness. The pressure is immense, over 90 atmospheres. That's roughly 1,320 pounds per square inch. Enough to crush a car, enough to implode a human skull instantly. The water itself feels different here, denser, heavier, as if the ocean is pressing in on you from all sides. The temperature hovers just above freezing, around 35 to 39 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to steal the warmth from your body in seconds, cold enough to slow every biological process to a crawl. And yet, there is life here. Not abundant life, not the chaotic, thriving ecosystems of the surface, but life nonetheless. Strange life, alien life, life that has adapted to conditions so extreme, so hostile, that it seems impossible. And among that life is the octopus. But this is not the octopus you know. This is not the octopus of coral reefs and tide pools. This is something else, something that has been shaped, sculpted even, by the abyss itself. Let's meet the creatures of the deep, the aliens of the midnight zone. Imagine a creature so transparent, you can see straight through it, not translucent, like frosted glass, but clear, like a window, like water itself. This is the glass octopus, Vitrolidonella richardi. It is one of the most ethereal, ghostly creatures in the entire ocean. When you see footage of it, and footage is rare because it lives in the deep open ocean, far from land, it barely looks real. It looks like a special effect, a hologram, a trick of the light. The glass octopus's body is almost entirely transparent. Its skin has no pigment, no color. You can see its internal organs, its digestive tract, its gills, its 3 hearts, suspended inside its body like shadows in clear gelatin. The only opaque parts of the glass octopus are its eyes, 2 golden cylindrical orbs that sit at the front of its head, staring out into the darkness. They are the only solid visible feature. Everything else fades into the water. Why transparency? Because in the deep ocean, where bioluminescence is common, being invisible is the ultimate camouflage. If a predator shines a light, or if another creature glows nearby, a solid, opaque body will cast a shadow, and shadows are targets. But a transparent body, no shadow, no silhouette. The light passes straight through. The glass octopus becomes functionally invisible. It drifts through the midnight zone like a ghost. Its only giveaway the faint glint of its golden eyes. But transparency comes at a cost. The glass octopus has no pigment cells, no chromatophores. It cannot change color. It cannot camouflage against surfaces. It is committed to the open ocean, to the water column, where there is nothing to blend into. It cannot hide on the sea floor. It cannot tuck into a crevice. It must remain in the open, vulnerable, and exposed. And so it drifts, slowly, silently, its arms trailing behind it like ribbons, its body pulsing gently. It hunts small prey, copepods, tiny jellyfish, larvae, filtering them from the water as it moves. It is delicate, fragile, almost impossibly so. And yet, it survives. In one of the harshest environments on Earth, the glass octopus thrives by becoming nothing, a shape in the water, a flicker of movement, a pair of eyes with no body. It is beautiful and deeply, deeply unsettling. Because when you watch footage of the glass octopus, you cannot shake the feeling that you are looking at something that should not exist, something that defies the basic rules of biology, something that is more absent than present. A ghost in the deep. Now let's talk about the Dumbo octopus. Because if the glass octopus is eerie, the Dumbo octopus is adorable, in the most unsettling way possible. The Dumbo octopus belongs to a group called cirrate octopuses, octopus species that have fins and webbing between their arms. There are around 17 known species of Dumbo octopus, and they live deeper than almost any other octopus. Some have been found at depths of over 13,000 feet. That's nearly 2.5 miles below the surface. The Dumbo octopus gets its name from the two ear-like fins that protrude from the sides of its head, just above its eyes. These fins flap slowly, gently, propelling the octopus through the water in a way that looks almost whimsical, like a cartoon character, like something from a children's book. But don't let the cuteness fool you. The Dumbo octopus is a creature of the abyss. It lives in total darkness, under crushing pressure, in near-freezing temperatures. It drifts along the sea floor or hovers just above it, its arms webbed together like a skirt, its body soft and gelatinous. And it is patient. The Dumbo octopus does not chase prey. It does not hunt actively. It drifts. It waits. And when something small, a worm, a crustacean, a tiny fish, comes within reach, the octopus spreads its webbed arms like a net and envelops the prey. The arms fold inward, trapping the prey inside. Then, slowly, the octopus brings the prey to its mouth and consumes it. It is not violent, it is not aggressive. It is just, methodical, efficient, inevitable. And there is something deeply unnerving about the way it moves. The slow flapping of its fins, the gentle pulsing of its body, the way it hovers, motionless, in the water for minutes at a time, as if it's waiting for something, or watching something. The Dumbo octopus has no ink sac. It doesn't need one. In total darkness, ink is useless. Instead, it relies on its soft, gelatinous body to absorb impacts, to flex and bend under pressure. It is almost indestructible in that sense. Nothing to break, nothing to crack. But it is also incredibly vulnerable. It has no defenses, no venom, no speed, no camouflage. It survives by being invisible, not through transparency, but through stillness. It blends into the darkness simply by not moving, by not making a sound, by not drawing attention. And in the deep, where movement is rare and energy is precious, stillness is the ultimate camouflage. The Dumbo octopus is a master of it. In 2016, scientists made a startling discovery. During a deep-sea expedition near Hawaii, a remotely operated vehicle captured footage of an octopus unlike any ever seen before. It was small, only a few inches across. Its body was pale, almost white, with a faint translucence. It had no fins, no webbing, just 8 delicate arms and a round, soft body. It was sitting on the seafloor at a depth of over 13,000 feet, in an area where the ocean floor is barren and lifeless. And it was guarding something, eggs. The scientists named it the Casper octopus, after the friendly ghost, because of its pale, ghostly appearance. But friendly is the wrong word, because what the Casper octopus was doing was both awe-inspiring and deeply, deeply tragic. The Casper octopus lays its eggs on the stalks of dead sponges, structures that rise a few inches off the seafloor. At these depths, suitable surfaces for egg-laying are extremely rare. The seafloor is mostly mud and sediment. There are no rocks, no corals, no hard surfaces. So the Casper octopus seeks out the skeletal remains of sponges, and once it finds one, it lays its eggs, dozens of them, tiny and translucent, and attaches them to the sponge stalk. And then it stays, for years. Scientists observed one Casper octopus sitting beside its eggs for over 4.5 years. 4.5 years of motionless waiting. The octopus did not eat. It did not hunt. It did not move. It just sat there, guarding its eggs, gently fanning them with its arms to keep them oxygenated, protecting them from scavengers. For 4.5 years, the octopus slowly starved. Its body shrank. Its arms grew thin and fragile. Its skin paled further, becoming almost skeletal. And when the eggs finally hatched, releasing dozens of tiny, translucent baby octopuses into the water, the mother was gone, dead. Her body drifts away into the void or lies motionless on the seafloor, slowly being consumed by bacteria and scavengers. She gave everything for her offspring, and she never even saw them swim away. This is not just maternal instinct. This is a sacrifice on a scale that is almost incomprehensible. 4.5 years of starvation, of isolation, of waiting in the cold, dark abyss. And for what? For babies that will never know her, that will never return to her, that will drift away into the darkness alone, to face the same brutal existence she did. This is the life of the Casper octopus, and it is one of the most haunting, heartbreaking stories in the entire ocean. Let's talk about light, because in the midnight zone, light is not just rare, it is weaponized. In the shallows, light comes from the sun. It is passive, neutral. Everyone has access to it. But in the deep, where no sunlight reaches, the only light is bioluminescence. Light produced by living organisms. And bioluminescence is a tool, a weapon, a lure, a deception. Some deep-sea octopus species have evolved the ability to produce light, not in their eyes, but in their skin, in specialized cells called photophores, which contain bioluminescent bacteria or light-producing chemicals. When threatened, they release clouds of glowing mucus instead of ink. The mucus sparkles and shimmers in the water, pulsing with blue-green light. It hangs in the water like a glowing ghost, confusing and mesmerizing predators. The predator lunges at the light. The octopus jets away into the darkness. By the time the predator realizes it has been tricked, the octopus is gone. This is not just camouflage. This is active deception. The octopus is using light, the rarest, most valuable resource in the deep, as a weapon, as a distraction, as a smokescreen, and it works. But bioluminescence is not just defensive. Some octopus use it to hunt. Deep-sea predators often use bioluminescent lures to attract prey, a glowing appendage, a pulsing light organ. The prey, drawn to the light, swims closer and is ambushed. The octopus, with its intelligence and adaptability, has learned to exploit this. Some species use their bioluminescence to mimic the lures of other creatures, drawing prey into their grasp. Others use light to communicate, flashing patterns across their skin, pulses of light that might signal territory, or mating readiness, or warning. We don't fully understand octopus bioluminescence yet. We don't know all the ways they use it. But what we do know is this. In the deep, light is power, and the octopus has learned to wield it. Now let's talk about size, because in the deep ocean, some creatures grow enormous. Scientists call it deep-sea gigantism. It's a phenomenon where species that are small in shallow water grow to massive sizes in the deep. Giant isopods, giant squid, giant amphipods, and yes, giant octopus. The giant Pacific octopus, as we've mentioned, can reach an arm span of over 16 feet and weigh more than 100 pounds. But even that is not the largest. There are reports, unconfirmed but persistent, of octopus far larger. Fishermen have described octopus with arms as thick as a man's leg, arms 20, 30, even 40 feet long, eyes the size of dinner plates. Are these reports real? Or are they exaggerations, myths born from fear and the distorting lens of deep water? We don't know, because the deep ocean is vast, unexplored. We have mapped less than 5% of the seafloor. We have explored even less. But we do know this. Whales, sperm whales in particular, have been found with circular scars on their skin, sucker marks, from octopus, or more likely from giant squid, which are closely related. But the size of some of these scars is troubling, far larger than any confirmed octopus or squid species could produce. Something is down there, something large, something we have not yet named. And if an octopus can grow that large, what would it look like? How would it behave? What would it eat? The thought is both fascinating and terrifying, because the octopus is already intelligent, already adaptable, already capable of deception and problem solving. Now imagine that intelligence in a body the size of a car, with arms strong enough to crush bone, with a beak large enough to bite through steel cable. It would be a creature of nightmares, a kraken, a monster from legend, and maybe it exists somewhere in the deep, where humans cannot reach, where cameras cannot see, watching, waiting, hunting. Let's talk about the seven-arm octopus, because despite its name, it actually has 8 arms. It just hides one. The seven-arm octopus, Halophron atlanticus, is one of the largest octopus species in the world. Males can weigh over 150 pounds and have an arm span of up to 13 feet. They live in the deep Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, usually at depths of 3,000 to 6,500 feet. But here's the weird part. One of the male's arms, the hectocotylus used for reproduction, is coiled up inside a sac beneath the eye. It is hidden, invisible. The octopus appears to have only 7 arms. Why? No one knows for certain. But the hidden arm only emerges during mating. The male extends it, transfers sperm packets to the female, and then retracts it again. It is as if the octopus is hiding a secret, a hidden weapon, a concealed limb that only appears when needed. And there is something deeply unsettling about that. The idea that the octopus has more than you can see, that it is holding something back, that it is not fully revealing itself. The seven-arm octopus is also one of the gelatinous, soft-bodied species. Its body is loose and flabby, with weak muscles and a watery consistency. It drifts through the deep ocean, feeding on jellyfish and other soft-bodied prey. It is not fast, it is not strong, but it is large. And in the deep, where size can be a deterrent, that is enough. The seven-armed octopus is a creature of stillness and patience. It moves slowly, it hunts slowly, it lives slowly, and it watches, always watches, with those enormous unblinking eyes. Let's return for a moment to the environment itself, because at 13,000 feet, we are not just in the midnight zone anymore. We are approaching the abyssal zone, the deepest parts of the open ocean. The pressure here is almost 400 atmospheres. That's 5,880 pounds per square inch. Enough to compress the air in your lungs down to nothing. Enough to crush bone. Enough to implode steel. And yet, the octopus moves through it as easily as we move through air. Its body is water. Its tissues are flexible. Its cells are adapted to function under pressure that would destroy us. But this adaptation is not free. The octopus of the abyss is locked here. It cannot ascend. It cannot return to the surface. Its biology is calibrated to the deep, and only the deep. If you brought an abyssal octopus to the surface, its cells would malfunction. Its enzymes would stop working. Its proteins would unfold. It would die, not from decompression, but from biological incompatibility. The octopus of the abyss is a prisoner of the deep, and it always will be. The temperature here is just above freezing, 35 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to slow every process, cold enough to make movement painful, costly, and exhausting. And the silence, the absolute crushing silence. There is no sound in the deep, no waves, no wind, no calls of seabirds, just nothing. A void of sound so complete it is almost tactile. The octopus exists in this silence, unmoving, unblinking, waiting. At 13,000 feet, the octopus is no longer a creature of the familiar world. It is something else, something alien, something that has been shaped by the abyss into a form that defies logic, that bends the rules of biology, that exists on the edge of what we consider possible. It is transparent. It is gelatinous. It is enormous. It glows in the dark. It sacrifices everything for offspring it will never meet. It hides limbs. It drifts through crushing pressure and cold as if they were nothing. It is patient, silent, invisible, and it is alive, not thriving, not flourishing, but surviving, enduring, persisting in a world that should not support life at all. The octopus of the abyss is a testament to adaptability, to resilience, to the sheer, stubborn will to exist. But we are not done yet, because there is one more layer, one more descent, one more boundary to cross. The Hadal zone, the trenches, the deepest places on Earth. And there, the octopus becomes something even stranger. The octopus has been rewriting its own genetic code, actively, deliberately, in real time. Let's step back from the abyss for a moment. Let's surface, not physically, but conceptually. Let's zoom out and look at the octopus not just as a creature of the present, but as a product of time, of evolution, of millions upon millions of years of adaptation, survival, and transformation. Because the octopus is not a new creature. It is ancient. The lineage of the octopus stretches back over 300 million years. To put that in perspective, the octopus existed before the dinosaurs, before the first forests covered the land, before the continents took their current shapes. The octopus was swimming in ancient seas when the world was a fundamentally different place. And yet, it survived. It survived the Permian extinction, the worst mass extinction event in Earth history, which wiped out over 90% of all marine species. It survived the Triassic extinction, the Jurassic, the Cretaceous Paleogene extinction that killed the dinosaurs. Through every cataclysm, every upheaval, every mass die-off, the octopus endured. How? By being soft, by being flexible, by abandoning rigidity and embracing fluidity. And tonight, we're going to explore the evolutionary journey of the octopus, how it became what it is, why it is the way it is, and how, even now, it continues to evolve in ways that baffle scientists, because the octopus is not done changing. It is still adapting, still transforming, still rewriting the rules of biology. Let's begin at the beginning. The octopus is a mollusk. That means it is related to clams, oysters, snails, and slugs. But it is also related to something else, something that might surprise you. The nautilus. The nautilus is a cephalopod, a group that includes octopus, squid, and cuttlefish. But unlike the octopus, the nautilus has a shell, a beautiful spiraling shell divided into chambers, which the nautilus uses for buoyancy and protection. And in fact, all ancient cephalopods had shells. Millions of years ago, the ancestors of the octopus were shelled creatures. They lived inside protective casings made of calcium carbonate, just like modern snails and clams. These shells gave them armor, protection from predators, structural support. But shells also came with limitations. A shell is heavy. It restricts movement. It makes you slow. It makes you visible. In a world where speed and stealth were becoming more important, where predators were faster, smarter, more specialized, the shell became a liability. And so, over millions of years, the ancestors of the octopus began to lose their shells, not all at once, not in a single generation, but slowly, gradually, through natural selection. The cephalopods with lighter shells survived better. The ones with thinner shells, the ones with shells that were more internal than external. Eventually, the shell disappeared entirely in the octopus lineage, or rather, it didn't disappear. It internalized, reduced to tiny remnants called stillets, small, calcified rods hidden inside the octopus's body. They serve no function. They are evolutionary echoes, vestiges of a time when the octopus wore armor. But losing the shell did something extraordinary. It freed the octopus. Without a shell, the octopus became soft, flexible, able to squeeze through tiny spaces, able to change shape, to contort, to flow like water. It could hide in crevices no shelled creature could enter. It could escape through gaps no rigid body could fit through. It became the ultimate escape artist, the ultimate infiltrator, and in doing so, it unlocked a new evolutionary path, one that would lead to intelligence, adaptability, and survival against all odds. But losing the shell required more than just physical changes. It required a neurological revolution. A shelled animal has a central nervous system anchored to its shell. The brain sends signals to the muscles, which are attached to the shell structure. The system is rigid, linear. The brain is in control. But the octopus has no shell, no skeleton, no central anchor. Its body is entirely soft and flexible. So how does it control its movements? The answer: it distributed its nervous system. Instead of concentrating all neural processing in the brain, the octopus spread it out. It placed clusters of neurons, ganglia, in each of its 8 arms. These ganglia act as mini-brains, capable of processing sensory information and controlling movement independently. This is a radical departure from almost every other animal on Earth. Invertebrates, fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, mammals. The brain is in charge. It is the command center. Every action, every movement, every decision flows from the brain down to the body. But in the octopus, the brain is more like a coordinator. It oversees general strategy, but the arms handle the details. The arms can act independently, make local decisions, respond to stimuli without waiting for the brain's input. This distributed intelligence makes the octopus incredibly adaptable. It can multitask in ways we cannot. It can explore multiple crevices at once, each arm searching independently. It can solve problems in parallel, testing different solutions simultaneously. But it also makes the octopus strange, because it is not a single consciousness. It is a networked consciousness, a collective of semi-independent processes working in loose coordination. And this raises a deeply philosophical question. What is it like to be an octopus? Does it experience the world as a unified whole, the way we do? Or does it experience itself as multiple? A committee of minds, each arm with its own perspective, its own awareness. We don't know. We may never know. But the very fact that we have to ask the question tells you how alien the octopus truly is. Let's talk about the octopus's blood, because it is not like ours. Human blood is red because it uses hemoglobin, an iron-based molecule, to carry oxygen. Iron binds to oxygen efficiently in warm, oxygen-rich environments. It works well for us, for mammals, for most vertebrates. But hemoglobin is not ideal in cold, low-oxygen environments. In the deep ocean, where temperatures drop near freezing and oxygen is scarce, hemoglobin becomes less efficient. So the octopus evolved a different solution: hemocyanin. Hemocyanin is a copper-based molecule. It binds to oxygen differently than hemoglobin. And crucially, it works better in cold water. It is more efficient at capturing and transporting oxygen in low temperature, low oxygen conditions. But copper-based blood has a side effect. It is blue, not metaphorically, literally. When oxygenated, hemocyanin gives the blood a pale blue color. When deoxygenated, it is almost colorless. The octopus has blue blood, alien blood, blood chemistry that evolved for a world we cannot survive in. But blue blood alone is not enough. The octopus also needed a more efficient circulatory system, so it evolved 3 hearts. 2 of these hearts, the branchial hearts, are dedicated to pumping blood through the gills. They oxygenate the blood, preparing it for circulation. The 3rd heart, the systemic heart, pumps the oxygenated blood to the rest of the body. It is larger, more powerful. It is the main engine of the circulatory system. But here's the eerie part. When the octopus swims, the systemic heart stops beating. That's right. Swimming is so energetically expensive for the octopus that its main heart temporarily shuts down. Blood flow to the body is interrupted. Oxygen delivery drops. This is why most octopus prefer to crawl rather than swim. Swimming is exhausting. It is a last resort, a panic response. The octopus is not built for speed. It is built for endurance, for slow, deliberate movement, for patience. And that patience is encoded in its very biology, in its blue blood, in its 3 hearts, in the way its body prioritizes efficiency over power. Now let's talk about something truly extraordinary, something that challenges everything we thought we knew about evolution. The octopus can edit its own genetic code, not its DNA, not permanently, but its RNA. Here's how it works. DNA is the blueprint. It contains the instructions for building proteins, the molecular machines that do all the work in your cells. But DNA doesn't build proteins directly. First, the DNA is transcribed into RNA, a temporary copy of the instructions. Then, the RNA is translated into proteins. In most animals, the RNA is a faithful copy of the DNA. What's in the DNA is what gets made into protein. Mutations happen slowly, over generations, through reproduction. But the octopus cheats. The octopus can edit its RNA after it's been transcribed. It can change the instructions on the fly, without altering the underlying DNA. This is called RNA editing, and while it happens occasionally in other animals, the octopus does it on a massive scale. In fact, the octopus edits its RNA more than any other animal on Earth. Tens of thousands of editing sites have been identified in octopus RNA. That's orders of magnitude more than in mammals. Why? Because it allows the octopus to adapt to its environment without waiting for evolution. If the water gets colder, the octopus can edit the RNA for its ion channels, proteins that control nerve signals, to make them more efficient in the cold. If the pressure increases, it can adjust the proteins in its cell membranes to handle the stress. If the oxygen drops, it can fine-tune its metabolism. The octopus is not just evolving over generations, it is self-modifying within its own lifetime. This is not supposed to be possible. Evolution is supposed to be slow, gradual, driven by random mutations and natural selection over thousands of generations. But the octopus has found a shortcut. It has taken control of its own biology in a way no other creature has. And this makes the octopus one of the most genetically unique creatures on Earth. It is not just adapting to the environment. It is rewriting itself to fit the environment. It is evolution in real time, living, breathing, active evolution. And it is deeply, deeply strange. But for all its modernity, the octopus still carries remnants of its ancient past. Evolutionary vestiges, structures that no longer serve a purpose, but remain encoded in the body as echoes of what once was. We've already mentioned the styli, the tiny calcified rods inside the octopus's mantle. These are the last remnants of the shell its ancestors wore. They serve no function. They are just there, a memory carved into flesh. But there are other vestiges too. The octopus has chemoreceptors on its suckers, cells that can taste and smell. These receptors are incredibly sensitive. They can detect the faintest traces of chemicals in the water. They allow the octopus to taste its environment with every touch. But here's the interesting part. The octopus also has chemoreceptors in its skin. Not just on the suckers, all over its body. Why? Because its ancestors likely lived in environments where tasting the water, detecting prey, predators, or mates was crucial. Over time, as the octopus evolved other senses, these receptors became less important, but they remain, distributed across the skin, a sensory network that is still functional, even if it's no longer primary. The octopus is covered in taste buds. Its entire body can taste the world around it. And then there are the chromatophores themselves. These color-changing cells are controlled by muscles, which are in turn controlled by neurons. But here's the strange part. The neurons that control the chromatophores are not connected to the brain. They are controlled by the skin itself. The skin has its own neural network, its own decision-making system. The skin can see light, process information, and change color without ever consulting the brain. This is not just a vestige. This is an evolutionary innovation. The octopus didn't just adapt its existing systems. It created new ones. Systems that exist independently, in parallel, distributed across the body. The octopus is not one organism. It is a federation of semi-autonomous systems, all working together. And that is profoundly, unsettlingly alien. The octopus lives in a world without landmarks. The deep ocean is a featureless void. No mountains, no forests, no roads or rivers to follow. Just darkness, just water, just vast, empty space. And yet, the octopus navigates. How? Scientists believe the octopus uses a combination of methods. It senses the Earth's magnetic field, using it as a compass. It tracks ocean currents, using them as highways. It remembers landmarks, rocks, coral formations, even the texture of the sea floor. The octopus builds mental maps of its environment. It remembers where it has been, where it found food, where it encountered danger, and it uses that memory to plan its movements. This requires a level of spatial intelligence that is rare in the animal kingdom. It requires the ability to hold complex, three-dimensional information in memory, to update that information as the environment changes, to navigate through total darkness using only memory and sensory cues. And the octopus does this with a brain the size of a walnut. It is a reminder that intelligence is not about size. It is about organization, about efficiency, about how information is processed and stored. The octopus has optimized its brain for survival in an environment where mistakes are fatal, where getting lost means death, where memory is the difference between finding food and starving, and it has succeeded. For 300 million years, the octopus has navigated the ocean's depths, mapped its hidden landscapes, and thrived in a world that should be impossible to navigate. But for all its intelligence, all its adaptability, all its evolutionary success, the octopus is alone. The octopus is not a social creature. It does not form bonds. It does not live in groups. It does not cooperate or communicate with others of its kind, except during mating. And even that is brief, transactional, often violent. When a female octopus lays her eggs, she does so alone. She finds a den, a crevice, a cave, a sheltered spot, and she guards her eggs for weeks, sometimes months, sometimes years, as we saw with the Casper octopus. During this time, she does not eat, she does not hunt, she does not leave. She just waits, gently brushing her eggs with her arms, keeping them clean, keeping them oxygenated. And when the eggs finally hatch, she dies. Her body shuts down, her organs fail. She drifts away into the current or sinks to the sea floor, where scavengers consume her. The babies are born alone. They never meet their mother. They never learn from her. They drift into the open ocean, tiny and vulnerable, with nothing but their instincts to guide them. And those instincts are encoded in their genes, passed down through millions of years, refined through natural selection. The baby octopus knows how to hunt, how to hide, how to change color, how to solve problems. All of this knowledge is hardwired into its nervous system. It does not need to be taught. This is both extraordinary and heartbreaking, because it means every octopus is born with the accumulated wisdom of its ancestors. But it also means every octopus is born alone, with no family, no community, no social structure to support it. The octopus is intelligent, yes, but it is also isolated, profoundly, existentially isolated. It lives alone, it hunts alone, it dies alone. And there is something deeply tragic about that. Something that makes the octopus feel less like an alien and more like a mirror, a reflection of the loneliness that can exist even in the most intelligent, adaptable creatures. But perhaps the most important lesson the octopus teaches us is this: evolution is not linear. We tend to think of evolution as a ladder, a progression from simple to complex, from primitive to advanced, from lower animals to higher ones, with humans at the top. But the octopus shatters that model. The octopus is not higher or lower than other animals. It is different. It evolved along a completely separate path, developing intelligence, adaptability, and complexity in ways that have nothing to do with vertebrate evolution. The octopus has no bones, but it is not primitive. It has no centralized brain, but it is not simple. It lives alone, but it is not unsuccessful. The octopus is proof that there are multiple ways to be intelligent, multiple ways to survive, multiple solutions to the problem of existence, and it is proof that evolution is not about perfection. It is about flexibility, about finding what works in a given environment, about adapting, shifting, transforming. The octopus has been doing this for 300 million years, and it is still doing it now, still editing its RNA, still adapting to new environments, still surprising scientists with behaviors we didn't think were possible. The octopus is not done evolving. It is an ongoing process, a living experiment in adaptability, and in that sense, the octopus is not just a creature of the past. It is a creature of the future, a glimpse of what life can become when it is free to explore, to change, to rewrite itself. The octopus is ancient, but it is not old. It is not a relic. It is a living, breathing testament to the power of evolution, to the flexibility of life, to the endless creativity of biology. It has survived mass extinctions. It has thrived in environments that should be lethal. It has evolved intelligence in a body that defies logic. It has rewritten its own genetic code in real time. The octopus is not bound by the rules. It makes the rules. And the deeper you go, the more you realize. The octopus is not just adapting to the deep. It is mastering it. It is becoming something new, something stranger, something that exists on the edge of what we consider possible. But evolution is not just about the past. It is about the present, about how creatures live, think, and feel now. And that is what we will explore next. The emotional life of the octopus, its memory, its awareness, its capacity for something that looks disturbingly like feeling. Because the octopus is not just intelligent, it is aware, and that awareness is one of the most unsettling things about it. Let's slow down for a moment. Let's surface from the biology, the evolution, the chemistry. Let's talk about something harder to measure, harder to quantify, harder to prove. Let's talk about feelings. Can the octopus feel? Does it experience pain, fear, joy, grief? Does it have emotions the way we understand them? Or is it simply a biological machine, responding to stimuli with programmed reflexes, no different from a computer running code? This is one of the most difficult questions in marine biology, because to answer it, you have to define what an emotion is. You have to separate behavior from experience. You have to distinguish between reaction and feeling. And with the octopus, a creature so fundamentally different from us, that line becomes almost impossible to draw. But here's what we know. The octopus behaves in ways that look like emotion. It behaves in ways that suggest awareness, intention, even something resembling care. And whether or not we call it emotion, whether or not we say it feels the way we do, there is something happening inside the octopus's nervous system that is more than just reflex, more than just instinct. There is something that resembles consciousness. Tonight, we're going to explore the emotional and social lives of the octopus, the behaviors that suggest memory, personality, and perhaps even feeling. Let's begin with one of the most haunting observations in the entire animal kingdom. In 2018, marine biologists observed something extraordinary off the coast of British Columbia. A giant Pacific octopus had laid her eggs in a den, a sheltered crevice in the rocky sea floor. She was guarding them, as all female octopus do, gently brushing them with her arms, keeping them clean and oxygenated. But something went wrong. The eggs did not develop. They did not hatch. They died. And the mother did not leave. For weeks, she continued to guard the dead eggs. She continued to brush them. She continued to sit beside them, motionless, as her body slowly starved. She was wasting away. Her arms grew thinner. Her skin paled. Her movements became sluggish, but she did not abandon the eggs. Eventually, she died. Her body drifted away from the den, leaving the dead eggs behind. The researchers who documented this behavior struggled to explain it. Was it instinct? A biological program that could not be overridden, even when the eggs were clearly dead? Or was it something else? Something that looked disturbingly like grief. The octopus had continued to care for eggs that would never hatch. She had sacrificed her life for offspring that no longer existed. She had stayed, even when survival meant leaving. This is not unique. Similar behaviors have been observed in other octopus species. Females guarding eggs that have failed to develop, sitting beside them for weeks, months, sometimes until death. And while we cannot know what the octopus feels, cannot climb inside its nervous system and experience what it experiences, the behavior is undeniably heartbreaking. Because from the outside, it looks like mourning. It looks like devotion. It looks like a mother who cannot let go. And whether we call it emotion or instinct, the result is the same. The octopus gives everything, absolutely everything, for offspring it will never meet. Let's talk about motherhood in the octopus, because it is one of the most tragic, selfless, and disturbing aspects of their life cycle. When a female octopus lays her eggs, she enters a phase called senescence. Her body begins to shut down. Not because of age. Octopus are relatively short-lived, with most species living only 1-2 years, but because of a hormonal trigger. Near the octopus's eye is a gland called the optic gland. After the female lays her eggs, this gland releases hormones that suppress her appetite, slow her metabolism, and begin the process of bodily decay. She stops eating completely for weeks, months, sometimes over a year. She does not hunt. She does not leave her den. She just waits, guarding her eggs, brushing them gently with her suckers, fanning them with currents from her siphon, keeping them clean, keeping them safe. Her body slowly wastes away. Her muscles atrophy. Her organs begin to fail. Her skin loses its color, becoming pale and translucent. And when the eggs finally hatch, releasing hundreds or thousands of tiny, translucent baby octopuses into the water, the mother dies. Her body drifts away or sinks to the sea floor, where scavengers consume it. She never sees her babies swim away. She never knows if they survive. She never meets them at all. This is not a choice. This is not voluntary. This is programmed into the octopus's biology. Scientists have discovered that if you remove the optic gland, the female does not undergo senescence. She continues to eat. She can live much longer. But in the wild, the gland remains, and the mother dies. This is one of the most extreme examples of maternal sacrifice in the entire animal kingdom. The octopus gives everything, her body, her energy, her life, for offspring she will never know. And there is something deeply, profoundly sad about that, because we see echoes of our own parental instincts in this behavior. The drive to protect, to nurture, to sacrifice for the next generation. But in the octopus, that drive is absolute. It is inescapable. It is a biological death sentence. The octopus is hardwired to give everything, and then to disappear. Let's talk about memory, because the octopus has an extraordinary capacity to remember. In laboratory studies, octopus have been trained to complete tasks, navigating mazes, opening jars, distinguishing between shapes and colors. And they remember these tasks, not just for hours or days, but for weeks, sometimes longer. But more than just rote memorization, the octopus displays associative memory. It can connect experiences with outcomes. If a certain action leads to food, it remembers. If a certain object is dangerous, it avoids it. If a certain human is gentle, it approaches. If another is clumsy or threatening, it retreats or attacks. One of the most famous examples comes from a lab in Seattle. An octopus consistently squirted water at one particular staff member, only that person. Every time they walked past the tank, every time they approached, the staff member hadn't harmed the octopus, hadn't mistreated it. But something about their interactions, maybe the way they moved, the way they handled the octopus during cleanings, had annoyed the octopus. And the octopus remembered. It held a grudge for weeks, possibly months. This is not instinct. This is recognition. This is judgment. The octopus assessed the person, formed an opinion, and acted on it consistently. The octopus doesn't just remember objects or locations. It remembers individuals. It remembers interactions. It remembers how you made it feel. And that is profoundly unsettling, because it means the octopus is not just responding to the present moment. It is drawing on the past. It is making decisions based on history. The octopus is aware of time, of before and after, of cause and effect. And that is a hallmark of consciousness. But memory is not the only sign of a complex inner life. There is also play. Play is rare in the animal kingdom. Most animals do not play. They eat, reproduce, avoid danger, and die. Their lives are ruled by survival. There is no room for frivolity, but some animals, dolphins, crows, primates, dogs, engage in behaviors that serve no survival purpose. They play. They interact with objects purely for enjoyment. They engage in activities that are, by definition, non-essential. And the octopus? It plays too. Researchers have observed octopus in captivity playing with objects, floating plastic bottles, pieces of Lego, rubber balls. The octopus will pick up the object, turn it over in its arms, pass it from sucker to sucker, push it around the tank, not to eat it, not to use it as a tool, just to interact with it, to explore it, to play with it. One octopus in an aquarium was given a pill bottle filled with small treats. The octopus figured out how to unscrew the lid and get the treats. But even after the bottle was empty, the octopus continued to unscrew and rescrew the lid, over and over, for hours. Why? No survival benefit, no food reward. Just curiosity, exploration, maybe even enjoyment. This is not behavior driven by hunger or fear. This is behavior driven by interest, by something that looks disturbingly like boredom or curiosity. The octopus has downtime, and during that downtime, it chooses to engage with its environment in non-essential ways. That is play, and play is a sign of a complex mind. A mind that is not just reacting, but exploring. A mind that has the capacity for something beyond survival. A mind that might experience something we would call pleasure. Here's something that surprises even scientists. Every octopus is different. Not just genetically, not just physically, but behaviorally. Researchers who work with octopus in labs and aquariums consistently report that individual octopus have distinct personalities. Some are bold and curious, approaching new objects eagerly, interacting with humans, exploring every corner of their tank. Others are shy and cautious, hiding in dens, avoiding contact, fleeing from anything unfamiliar. Some are aggressive, lunging at anything that enters their space, gripping with their suckers, pulling with surprising strength. Others are gentle, almost timid, reaching out tentatively, recoiling at the slightest touch. Some are mischievous. They disassemble equipment. They escape from tanks. They spray water at people. They seem to enjoy causing chaos. Others are calm. They settle into routines. They accept handling without resistance. They seem almost content. This is not random variation. This is consistent individual behavior. Over time, an octopus's personality remains stable. The bold octopus stays bold. The shy octopus stays shy. The mischievous octopus continues to cause trouble. And this raises a profound question. If every octopus is different, if they have individual preferences and tendencies, what does that mean? It means the octopus is not a machine. It is not a programmed automaton. It is an individual, a being with its own quirks, its own tendencies, its own way of interacting with the world. The octopus has a self, and that is deeply, deeply strange, because the octopus has no social life, no parents to teach it, no peers to learn from. Every octopus is born alone and develops alone, and yet, somehow, it still becomes a unique individual with its own personality, its own preferences, its own way of being. How is that possible? How does personality emerge in a creature with no social structure, no cultural transmission, no learned behavior? We don't know. But the fact that it does emerge tells us something profound about the octopus. It tells us that individuality is not just a product of learning or socialization. It is something deeper, something intrinsic. The octopus is not just alive. It is a person, in a way that is alien, yes, but undeniable. And the hardest question, the one that makes scientists uncomfortable, the one that has profound ethical implications. Does the octopus feel pain? Not just nociception, the ability to detect harmful stimuli and react to them. All animals have nociception. Even single-celled organisms recoil from noxious chemicals. But pain, the subjective, conscious experience of suffering, is different. It requires awareness. It requires the ability to not just detect harm, but to experience it as something negative, something to be avoided, not just instinctively, but consciously. And that is much harder to prove. But here's what we know. The octopus has a highly developed nervous system. It has nociceptors, sensory neurons that detect tissue damage, extreme temperatures, and harmful chemicals. When these neurons are activated, the octopus reacts. It pulls away. It changes color. It retreats. But it also does something else. It protects the injured area. If one of its arms is damaged, the octopus will cradle it with its other arms. It will avoid using it. It will groom it gently, as if trying to soothe it. This is not just reflex. This is care. This is behavior that suggests the octopus is aware of the injury and is trying to minimize further harm. In laboratory settings, octopus have been observed self-medicating. If injured, they will seek out algae or other materials with antibacterial properties and apply them to the wound. They are not just reacting to pain, they are treating it. This suggests a level of awareness that goes beyond simple nociception. It suggests the octopus knows it is hurt. It knows the injury is a problem, and it knows how to address it. That is not instinct. That is cognition. That is problem solving applied to one's own body. And if the octopus is aware of its own injuries, aware that they are problems that need solving, then it is very likely aware of the experience of pain it feels. And that has profound implications. Because if the octopus feels pain, then we have a moral responsibility to consider its welfare, to minimize its suffering, to treat it not as a resource, but as a being. Many countries are beginning to recognize this. The UK, for example, has classified octopus as sentient beings under animal welfare laws, granting them legal protections, because the evidence is mounting. The octopus is not a mindless mollusk. It is aware, it thinks, it feels, and that changes everything. Let's return to the octopus's solitude, because while it has personality, memory, and awareness, it also lives in profound isolation. The octopus does not form bonds. It does not seek companionship outside of mating, a brief, often violent encounter. The octopus spends its entire life alone, and that isolation may come with a cost. In captivity, octopus often display signs of what looks like stress. They pace their tanks, they become lethargic, they engage in repetitive behaviors, stereotypies, like circling the same path over and over, or obsessively grooming one arm. Some octopus in captivity have been observed engaging in self-harm, biting their own arms, peeling off patches of skin, eating their own flesh. This behavior, autophagy, is disturbing, and while it can be triggered by infection or poor water quality, it also seems to occur more frequently in octopus that are isolated, bored, or understimulated. It's as if the octopus, deprived of environmental complexity, turns inward. It begins to destroy itself. This is not normal in the wild. Wild octopus, even solitary ones, have constant environmental stimulation. They hunt, they explore, they navigate complex, changing landscapes. But in captivity, or in barren, featureless environments, the octopus seems to break down. This suggests that the octopus needs complexity, it needs challenge, it needs stimulation. Without it, its mental state deteriorates, and that too is a sign of consciousness. Because simple, instinct-driven creatures do not become depressed. They do not self-harm out of boredom. They simply exist. But the octopus, it seems to suffer when deprived of complexity. It seems to experience something like despair, and that is heartbreaking. Let's end on a slightly warmer note, because while the octopus is solitary, it is not incapable of connection. In the wild, octopus have been observed interacting with divers in ways that suggest recognition and curiosity. They approach, they reach out with their arms, they explore the diver's equipment, their cameras, their hands. Some divers report repeated encounters with the same octopus. The octopus recognizes them, remembers them, and over time, the interactions become more comfortable, more trusting. One diver in South Africa documented a year-long relationship with a wild octopus. The octopus, over time, began to approach the diver regularly. It would reach out and touch him. It would allow him to touch it. It seemed to trust him. This is not typical behavior. Most octopus are wary of humans. But this individual octopus, over repeated encounters, seemed to form something resembling a bond. Not a social bond the way we understand it. Not friendship, but something. A recognition, a familiarity, a willingness to engage. And that tells us something important. The octopus is capable of learning not just what is safe, but who is safe. It can distinguish between individuals. It can remember them, and it can adjust its behavior accordingly. The octopus sees you, knows you, judges you, and in rare cases, trusts you. And that is both beautiful and unsettling. The octopus is not a creature of simple instincts. It is a creature of memory, personality, and awareness. It recognizes individuals. It holds grudges. It plays. It cares for its injuries. It sacrifices everything for offspring it will never meet. It lives alone, dies alone. And yet, somehow, it carries within it something that looks disturbingly like feeling. We cannot say for certain that the octopus experiences emotions the way we do. We cannot climb inside its distributed nervous system and feel what it feels. But we can observe, we can document, we can see the behaviors that suggest something more than reflex, something more than instinct. The octopus is aware, and that awareness is profound, And the deeper you go into the cold, dark waters where the octopus lives its silent, solitary life, the more you realize this is not just a creature surviving. This is a creature experiencing, and that makes it one of the most remarkable beings in the ocean. But we are not done yet, because the octopus is still evolving, still adapting, still changing. And in the final chapter, we will explore what the future holds for this ancient, alien, extraordinary creature. Let's descend one last time into the deepest places, into the unknown, into the future of the octopus. Let's surface one more time, not physically, but conceptually. Let's zoom out from the individual octopus, from its arms and neurons and blue blood, and look at the bigger picture. The ocean is changing. It is warming. The average temperature of the world's oceans has risen by over 1 degree Fahrenheit in the past century. That might not sound like much, but in the ocean, where ecosystems are finely tuned to specific temperature ranges, it is enormous. The ocean is acidifying. As we pump carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, roughly 30% of it is absorbed by the ocean, where it reacts with seawater to form carbonic acid. The pH of the ocean has dropped by 0.1 units since the Industrial Revolution. That is a 30% increase in acidity. The ocean is becoming noisier. Ships, sonar, seismic surveys, drilling, all of this creates a constant underwater din that disrupts communication, navigation, and hunting for marine animals. The ocean is being overfished. We are removing fish faster than they can reproduce. We are collapsing food webs. We are emptying the seas. And the ocean is filling with plastic, millions of tons of it. Microplastics are now found in every ocean, every depth, every ecosystem, even in the deepest trenches. The ocean is under stress, and the creatures that live in it, including the octopus, are being forced to adapt rapidly in ways we're only beginning to understand. But here's the remarkable thing. The octopus is good at this, better than almost any other creature, because the octopus has always been a survivor, an adapter, a shapeshifter. And as the ocean changes, the octopus is changing with it, in real time, in ways that are both fascinating and unsettling. Tonight, we're going to explore the future of the octopus, how it is responding to a rapidly changing world, what new behaviors it is developing, what new species we are discovering, and what all of this tells us about the resilience and fragility of life in the deep. Let's begin with one of the most astonishing behaviors recently observed. Here's something that should not be possible. In 2020, researchers off the coast of Australia documented something extraordinary. A group of octopus, not one, but multiple individuals, were observed using tools in a way that suggested learned behavior. The octopus were collecting coconut shells, carrying them across the sea floor, and assembling them into makeshift shelters. This in itself is not new. Tool use has been documented in octopus before. But here's the twist. Younger octopus were watching the older ones and then imitating the behavior. This is called observational learning. And while it has been observed in lab settings, seeing it in the wild, among solitary creatures that do not form social groups, is stunning. Because the octopus has no parents, no teachers, no elders to pass down knowledge. Every octopus is born alone. It should have to figure out everything on its own. But somehow, octopus are learning from each other. How? Scientists are still trying to understand. But the leading theory is that octopus are capable of incidental learning. They observe other octopus during brief encounters, remember what they saw, and replicate the behavior later. This is not instinct. This is cultural transmission. behavior spreading horizontally across individuals in real time. And it is happening faster than evolution. These are not genetic changes passed down over generations. These are learned behaviors spreading within a single generation. The octopus is evolving culturally, not just biologically. And that changes everything. Because if octopus can learn from each other, if they can transmit knowledge without genetics, then they can adapt to changing environments far faster than we thought possible. They can learn to avoid new predators, to exploit new food sources, to navigate new dangers. They are not waiting for natural selection. They are teaching themselves. And that is profoundly unsettling, because it means the octopus is not a static creature. It is a dynamic one that is actively reshaping its own behavior in response to the world around it. The octopus is not just surviving the changing ocean, it is adapting to it in real time. The octopus has always been a clever hunter. It uses camouflage. It uses ambush tactics. It uses its arms to probe crevices and extract hidden prey. But now, researchers are documenting new hunting strategies. Strategies that have never been seen before. Strategies that suggest the octopus is innovating. In Indonesia, octopus have been observed throwing objects. Yes, throwing. The octopus collects shells, rocks, or debris, holds them with its arms, and then hurls them at threats. Sometimes at other octopus encroaching on their territory. Sometimes at fish that get too close. Sometimes at divers who annoy them. This is not random flailing. This is aimed. The octopus calculates the trajectory, positions its body, and launches the object with surprising accuracy. This is tool use. But more than that, it is weaponized tool use. The octopus is using objects not as shelter, not as camouflage, but as projectiles. And here's the eerie part. This behavior is spreading. Researchers have documented it in multiple octopus in the same region, suggesting it is being learned and transmitted. The octopus is teaching each other to throw things. Let that sink in. In other regions, octopus have been observed punching fish, not attacking them to eat, just punching them. Researchers believe this is a form of cooperative hunting or spite. The octopus is part of a mixed species hunting group, fish and octopus working together to drive prey into the open. But when a fish doesn't cooperate or takes more than its share, the octopus punches it. This is social behavior, enforcement of norms, justice in a way. And it is happening in a creature we thought was solitary, a creature that should have no concept of cooperation or fairness. The octopus is full of surprises, and the more we watch, the more we realize we have underestimated it profoundly. The ocean is warming, and for many species, this is catastrophic. Coral reefs are bleaching. Fish are migrating toward the poles. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. But the octopus, it is adapting. Remember, the octopus can edit its RNA. It can adjust its biology on the fly to match environmental conditions. And that gives it a massive advantage in a rapidly changing world. In warmer waters, the octopus can tweak the proteins in its nervous system to remain functional at higher temperatures. It can adjust its metabolism to handle faster biochemical reactions. It can modify the efficiency of its oxygen transport. And it is doing this right now, in real time. Researchers studying octopus populations in warming regions have found evidence of rapid adaptation. Octopus in warmer waters are developing slightly different nervous system structures, slightly different enzyme configurations, slightly different behaviors. This is not genetic evolution. This is epigenetic adaptation, changes in gene expression, driven by RNA editing and environmental triggers. The octopus is not waiting for natural selection to save it. It is saving itself. But there are limits. The octopus can adapt to gradual warming. But if the temperature rises too quickly, too drastically, even the octopus's flexibility may not be enough. And then there's acidification. Ocean acidification is one of the most insidious threats facing marine life, because it doesn't just affect temperature or oxygen levels, it affects chemistry. As the ocean becomes more acidic, it becomes harder for creatures to build shells and skeletons. Calcium carbonate, the material that makes up shells, coral, and the hard structures of many marine organisms, dissolves more easily in acidic water. For the octopus, which has no shell, this might seem like a non-issue, but it's not, because the octopus still has internal structures made of calcium carbonate. The stylids, those tiny vestigial remnants of its ancient shell, and more importantly, the octopus's beak, the hard parrot-like structure it uses to crush and tear prey, is made of a material similar to calcium carbonate. If the ocean becomes too acidic, the octopus may struggle to maintain its beak. It may become softer, weaker, less effective, and without a functional beak, the octopus cannot eat, cannot survive. But there's another problem. The octopus's prey is affected by acidification. Crabs, clams, snails, many of the creatures the octopus hunts rely on calcium carbonate shells. If those shells weaken or fail to form, those species decline, and when the prey disappears, the predator starves. The octopus is adaptable, but it cannot adapt to an empty ocean. So the question becomes, can the octopus adjust its diet? Can it shift to different prey? Can it find new food sources? The answer so far seems to be yes, sort of. The octopus is not a picky eater. It is an opportunistic predator. It eats whatever it can catch: crabs, fish, clams, snails, other octopus, if the opportunity arises. And as the ocean changes, as traditional prey species decline, the octopus is shifting its diet. In some regions, octopus have been observed eating more jellyfish. Jellyfish populations are booming in warming, overfished oceans. They thrive in low oxygen, high nutrient conditions that many other species cannot tolerate, and the octopus has learned to exploit this. It hunts jellyfish. It consumes their soft, gelatinous bodies. It is not ideal. Jellyfish are mostly water, with little nutritional value. But it is something. It is survival. In other regions, octopus are eating more fish, smaller fish, slower fish. Fish that have been weakened by warming waters or depleted oxygen levels. The octopus is a generalist. It does not specialize. It adapts. It shifts. It survives. But there is a limit. If the ocean becomes too depleted, too barren, even the octopus's flexibility may not be enough. And that is the real threat. Not that the octopus cannot adapt, but that there may be nothing left to adapt to. Let's talk about something we don't often think about: sound. The ocean is not silent. It is full of sound. The clicking of snapping shrimp, the songs of whales, the grunts of fish, the crackle of coral reefs. But in recent decades, the ocean has become much louder. Ships traverse every ocean. Sonar pulses through the water. Seismic surveys blast shockwaves into the seafloor to search for oil and gas. Offshore construction hammers and drills. And all of this noise is disruptive. For creatures that rely on sound to communicate, navigate, and hunt, like whales and dolphins, this is catastrophic. The noise drowns out their calls. It disorients them. It stresses them. But what about the octopus? The octopus is not known for vocalizations. It doesn't sing or call. It is a silent creature, but it still hears. It has a sense of balance and vibration detection through structures called statocysts, organs filled with tiny calcium carbonate crystals that detect movement and orientation. And those statocysts are sensitive to sound. Loud sounds, especially low-frequency sounds like sonar or seismic blasts, can damage them. Researchers have found that octopus exposed to intense underwater noise show signs of stress. They become disoriented. They lose their sense of balance. In extreme cases, the statocysts are destroyed entirely, leaving the octopus unable to orient itself in the water. This is a hidden threat, because we don't see the octopus reacting to noise the way whales do. The octopus doesn't beach itself. It doesn't cry out. It just loses its way. And in the deep, where navigation is already challenging, losing your sense of orientation is a death sentence. The octopus is resilient, but it is not invincible. But let's shift to something more hopeful, because even as the ocean changes, we are still discovering new species of octopus. Every year, scientists find octopus species that were previously unknown, species that live deeper, stranger, more remote than we ever imagined. In 2021, a new species of Dumbo octopus was discovered at a depth of over 20,000 feet, nearly 4 miles down. It is the deepest living octopus ever recorded. It lives in the Hadal zone, in the trenches, where the pressure is over 600 atmospheres, where the cold is absolute, where the darkness is total. And yet, it thrives. This discovery tells us something important. The octopus is not confined to the environments we know. It is everywhere, in every depth, in every trench, in every corner of the ocean. We have explored less than 5% of the ocean, less than 1% of the deep sea, and already we have found over 300 species of octopus. How many more are out there? How many species live in places we have never been, in trenches we have never explored, in ecosystems we have never imagined? The answer is, we don't know, but the discoveries keep coming, and each one reveals new adaptations, new behaviors, new forms of strangeness. The octopus is not a single story. It is hundreds of stories, each species with its own unique adaptations, its own unique way of surviving in the impossible. And the deeper we go, the more species we find. Here's something truly bizarre. In rare cases, octopus have been observed producing sounds, not vocalizations in the traditional sense. The octopus has no vocal cords, but by forcing water through its siphon in specific ways, the octopus can create clicks, pops, and even hissing sounds. And in at least one documented case, a captive octopus appeared to mimic human speech. The octopus, housed in an aquarium in Japan, was repeatedly exposed to a staff member saying the phrase "taco," the Japanese word for octopus. Over time, the octopus began producing sounds that resembled the syllables of the word. Now, this is not the same as a parrot mimicking speech. The octopus was not forming words with a larynx or vocal cords. It was forcing water through its siphon in a pattern that approximated the sound. But the fact that it could do this at all is stunning. It suggests the octopus can hear complex sounds, remember them, and reproduce them using an entirely different mechanism. This is auditory learning. It is vocal mimicry, using a completely alien anatomy. And it is yet another reminder that the octopus is full of surprises. That every time we think we understand it, it does something that forces us to reconsider. The octopus is not done evolving, not done adapting, not done becoming. As humans expand into the ocean, building structures, creating artificial reefs, discarding debris, the octopus is learning to use what we leave behind. Octopus have been observed sheltering in discarded bottles, cans, even toilets. They are opportunistic. They see a hollow object and they see potential shelter. But they are also learning to avoid human dangers. In regions with heavy fishing, octopus are becoming more cautious. They flee from divers more quickly. They avoid baited traps. They are learning that humans are a threat. This is behavioral adaptation. It is not genetic. It is not inherited. It is learned, individually, rapidly, and it is spreading. Octopus in heavily fished areas are more wary than those in protected areas. This suggests that the behavior is being transmitted, either through observation or through trial and error. The octopus is not a passive victim of human activity. It is an active participant. It is watching us, learning from us, adapting to us, and that is both impressive and unsettling, because it means the octopus is not just reacting to the changing ocean. It is reacting to us, to our presence, to our impact. The octopus sees us, knows us, and is changing because of us. So where does this leave us? The octopus is one of the most resilient creatures on Earth. It has survived for 300 million years. It has survived mass extinctions. It has adapted to every environment, every depth, every condition the ocean can throw at it. It can edit its own RNA. It can change color in milliseconds. It can solve problems, learn from experience, and even teach others. The octopus is a survivor, a shapeshifter, a master of adaptation. But it is also fragile. It cannot survive in a lifeless ocean. It cannot adapt to acidification if its prey disappears. It cannot navigate if noise destroys its statistics. It cannot thrive if the ocean becomes too warm, too polluted, too empty. The octopus is resilient, yes, but it is not invincible. And the future of the octopus, like the future of all ocean life, depends on what we do, on whether we protect the ocean, on whether we reduce our impact, on whether we give the octopus and all the strange, beautiful, alien creatures of the deep a chance to continue their ancient journey. The octopus is not done evolving, not done adapting, not done surprising us. It is teaching itself new tricks. It is learning from others. It is shifting its diet, its behavior, its very biology to survive in a changing world. And as long as the ocean remains alive, complex, mysterious, full of hidden corners and unexplored depths, the octopus will endure. It will continue to shapeshift, to hide, to hunt, to think, to feel. It will continue to be one of the ocean's greatest mysteries, one of its most alien inhabitants, one of its most extraordinary survivors. But the question is, will we let it? Will we protect the ocean? Will we reduce our impact? Will we give the octopus and all the creatures of the deep a future? Or will we continue to drain, pollute, and acidify the ocean until even the octopus's remarkable adaptability is not enough? The choice is ours. But for now, the octopus is still out there, in the shallows and the deep, in the coral reefs and the abyssal plains, watching, waiting, adapting, and the deeper you go, the creepier and more incredible it gets. Let's take a breath. Let's surface, just for a moment, and reflect on what we've learned. The octopus is a creature of contradictions. It is soft, yet resilient. It is solitary, yet aware. It is ancient, yet constantly evolving. It lives in a world of darkness and pressure, and yet it thrives there, in ways that seem almost impossible. But perhaps what makes the octopus so unsettling is not just what it is, but how little we understand it. We have explored less than 5% of the ocean. We have named only a fraction of the species that live there. And every year, scientists discover new octopus species, deeper and stranger than the ones before. There are likely octopus in the deepest trenches, species that have never seen light, that live under pressures we cannot fathom, that have adapted in ways we cannot imagine. And they are watching us, not with malice, not with curiosity in the way we understand it, but with an awareness that is entirely other, an intelligence that evolved on a completely different branch of the tree of life. The octopus is not an alien from another planet, but it might as well be. It reminds us that intelligence is not singular. It is not human-shaped. It can take forms that are soft, fluid, distributed across 8 arms and a body that has no bones. And it thrives in the places we fear most. The deep ocean is not empty. It is not silent. It is full of life, strange, beautiful, and sometimes deeply unsettling. The octopus is the guardian of that world, the shapeshifter, the thinker, the ghost in the deep. So the next time you think of the ocean, remember, there is something down there in the dark, watching the world with eyes older than the mountains. Something that has no voice, but speaks in color. Something that has no bones, but has survived for 300 million years. The octopus. And the deeper you go, the creepier it gets. But for now, let your mind drift. Let the weight of the deep settle gently over you. Let the darkness become a blanket, soft and endless. The octopus knows the secret of the abyss, that in the deepest places there is no fear, only stillness, only silence, only sleep. Good night.